Oh, the magical year of 1998, which gave us two movies with the same general plot that came out in the same summer. We're going to get into one of them right now. Stick around. Oh, yes, 1998. We had two competing films with the same general plot. And those plots were giant asteroids hurtling towards Earth that's going to kill us all. The first film that came out first that year was Deep Impact with Morgan Freeman and Tia Leone. That movie came out in May of that year. But what the movie I'm going to review is Michael Bay's Armageddon, which came out July 1st of 1998. This movie had a budget of $140 million. And for Michael Bay he just came off of The Rock 2 years previous to this, which I love The Rock. And that was a huge hit that year that came out in 96. But this was definitely a way increase in budget. And Michael Bay's never looked back after this. Once again, he teamed back up with producer Jerry Bruckheimer. This is the first time he worked with Disney, although it was released to Touchstone Pictures, which was Disney anyway. And when the movie came out in July, in the U.S., it made $201.5 million. And worldwide, it made $553.7 million, which at that time, for Disney, it was their highest grossing live-action film of all time. Obviously, that record has been broken many, many, many times since then. But it is good to note at the time it was their highest grossing live action picture. With any Jerry Bruckheimer film or any Michael Bay film, say what you will, it's well put together, it's slick, there's really good actors in the movie, and you cannot take that away from a Jerry Bruckheimer production, no matter what you may think, or a Michael Bay production. He gets really good talent, the movies are always well made, even if you don't like them. And this is pretty much, this movie was made, doing some research, I didn't realize this. I read, there was a review or interview with Michael Bay from a couple years ago about how he said he only had 16 weeks to film this movie. Which when you watch the movie, like I just did the other night with my wife again for the first time in a while, that's a huge undertaking in just 16 weeks. That's all he had to film. Now, they did get permission to actually film a launch at Cape Canaveral, and they got to shoot on the actual launch pad. Because Michael Bay had a good working relationship with the U.S. government, which went over into some of his later films, like Pearl Harbor, the next film he did after this, and the Transformers movies. He always has a lot of cooperation with the military. And for this movie, he had a lot of cooperation with NASA. Now, in the roles in this film, you got Bruce Willis as Harry Stamper, you got Ben Affleck as AJ, Liv Tyler as Harry's daughter, Grace. Billy Bob Thornton is Dan Thurman, kind of the head of NASA in this movie. Will Patton is Chick, basically Harry Stamper's right-hand man. Steve Buscemi as Rockhound, and he's admitted later on in years that he only did this movie for the money, but he's great in the movie. Owen Wilson's in this film. Michael Clark Duncan is in this film, and he's great. William Fichtner, Keith David, and there's other recognizable faces throughout this film. It's stacked with really good actors from top to bottom. So that's definitely not a problem. Say what you will about this film, but that is not one of its problems. The cast is not the problem. Now, funny enough, doing some research, NASA actually shows this film, and to the date, they found 168 errors with this movie. A couple other little points of trivia before I get into it. Bruce Willis did not like working with Michael Bay and has since said that he'll never work with him again. And I don't know why. I know Bay likes to yell a lot. I don't think Bruce Willis appreciated that. And he's said on numerous occasions that he never wants to work with Michael Bay again. I'm sure Michael Bay doesn't care because people still work with Michael Bay all the time. So whatever. As we know, the movie opens up basically with this asteroid the size of Texas hurtling towards Earth. And there's some impacts on Earth with littler pieces of the asteroid. And we get introduced to Billy Bob Thornton's character, and NASA realizes there's a problem. Then we cut to Bruce Willis's character, who owns his own oil company, and he's on his oil company's rig wherever out in the ocean. And we get quickly introduced to some of his crew, like Michael Clark Duncan, Steve Buscemi, Will Patton, Owen Wilson. And we've come to find out they're all kind of like a tight-knit family when they're working. And Ben Affleck's character, AJ, which Bruce Willis's character even says during the movie, he always thought of as his son, but he finds out that him and his daughter Grace have been seeing each other without him knowing. And he finds them together in AJ's cabin, and he goes to get his shotgun and chases Ben Affleck's character around the oil platform, which is batshit crazy, but it's kind of funny. And then the military shows up and asks Bruce Willis's character to go with them, and him and his daughter go off to NASA, and they meet with Billy Bob Thornton. And Billy Bob Thornton pretty much lays out what the Earth faces: total extinction if something is not done. And they have a plan, and they want Harry to train their astronauts how to drill. They want to land on the asteroid, drill 100 feet, drop a nuke in it, take off, and blow up the nuke before it's this line they have marked on the map, which is pretty much the last line that could, before it has to be blown up before it passes that line, or it's going to hit the Earth. If they can blow it up and it splits in half, it'll miss the Earth. Bruce Willis tells him, look, I've been doing this all my life, and I don't have all the answers. He goes, what if you train me to go up there and let me take my crew, and we'll go do the drilling? And that's pretty much what's happened. Then we get a montage of them chasing down all these guys that Bruce Willis wants to take with him. And then our training montages and all that stuff. And there's some funny scenes, and all the actors get to strut their stuff. So, like, Steve Buscemi's great, Michael Clark Duncan's great. All the cast is great in this film. I mean, some of the dialogue they're given is not the best, but all the actors give it their all for what they have to work with. And then the night before they're going to take off to go to this asteroid, we have the classic scene with the animal crackers, which is just cheesy, and oh my goodness, is it cheesy. And watching it again, it does not help. It's still cheesy as hell. But then they take off, they go to stop at this Russian space station to refuel. That's where we meet Peter Stollmeyer's on there as the Russian cosmonaut. That blows up because something goes wrong, and it blows up spectacularly in Michael Bay style, and then they take off for the asteroid. They lose the one shuttle, and they start drilling, and they run into problems because it's the movie and there has to be problems. You can't run smoothly. And then eventually they get to the depth, but the bomb has been damaged, and the only way to set it off is by somebody staying behind and setting it off manually. And Bruce Willis, since he's the main star of the movie, stays behind and sacrifices himself to save the Earth, which they do. And there's a big celebration on Earth. And at the end, AJ and Grace get married, and all is well. And that's the end of the movie. That's a very quick synopsis of what happens, but because it is like a 2 hour and 20-minute movie. Do I like this movie? Yeah, it's fun. It's definitely a guilty pleasure. It is not Michael Bay's best film, and there's a lot of sloppiness to it. I know why now. He had 16 weeks to shoot this baby, which isn't a whole lot of time. It's exciting, though. Yes, it's big and it's dumb. It's over the top in a lot of ways. And there's some cheesy-ass scenes and dialogue. But all the actors are likable. Michael Bay keeps it moving. It's pretty to look at. And at the end of the movie, I have a good time watching this movie. It's not perfect, and it's not my favorite Michael Bay movie. But if I had to rate it, I would give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. It's an enjoyable time. It's easy to sit through. Yes, there's some dumb shit in there, but it's all good. I mean, the cast alone, for how good they are, it lets you forgive some of the stupid shit. And there's some really exciting scenes in it, even though it's loud as hell and it's cut. Some of the action scenes are cut so tight, you don't even know what's going on. But overall, I enjoy this movie, and I'm not ashamed to say it. So yeah, 7.5 out of 10 for me for Armageddon. Do you like this movie? Have you seen it? I'm sure if you're especially my age, you probably have seen this movie at least once. What are your thoughts on it? Is it one of your favorite Michael Bay films? My favorite Michael Bay film is The Rock. I've said it many times, and I will stick to that. But yeah, that's it for me for Armageddon. I will be back soon with another review. Have a great day, and I'll see you.